Well, welcome in once again, everybody, to another edition of Pick Your Politics. We've got a great guest for you today, and she's been on before, but she was so good we had to invite her back because she's a terrific guest. But anyway, if you're, as you know, a regular viewer of the show, please please share, and subscribe to Pick Your Politics. We do this live at the best podcast studio in the whole state, Rigel Studios, right here in Las Vegas. And by the way, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, this is the only place you should come. I'm telling you, it's the best facility around. So come on in, Rigel Studios, and talk to Rick or Jenny, and they'll tell you what's needed, and just give them a shout. You know what the show is about. We kind of try to get you a little up close and personal to people that are running for office, be they a Republican, a Democrat, in a nonpartisan race, an independent, and to give you an idea what their philosophy is. Once they take office, what they will do in office, and it's just that simple. And we have a young lady who just had a birthday, by the way, I believe yesterday. How's it feel being in your 40s finally?
I know. It's a good feeling.
Let me tell you a little bit about Jill Douglas. Jill is the Republican candidate running for election to the Nevada State Assembly, representing District 37. Jill also is the chairwoman for the Clark County Republican Party, and that keeps her super busy along with all her other duties. How do you find time to do all of this stuff?
Stay on the go. I like being on the go.
Wow. All right, let me start. Jill, what made you get into politics in the first place? When did you first acquire the interest?
You know what? I've always been interested in politics. I was raised in a family. They say, don't talk about religion and politics. That's all my family talked about. So I grew up in a family that was always talking politics. I loved politics. It was always kind of on my bucket list. Thinking about maybe someday I might want to run for office. But really, over about the past 10 years or so, I got watching what I believe our government did to like Brett Kavanaugh during the Supreme Court nominations. I watched that and I was appalled. And it was like, if government can turn and go after and just make up lies about a decent, honorable man like Brett Kavanaugh, what can they do to my family, my sons, anyone? And I was just like, I got to get from just being like a voter to I just need to get more involved.
Yeah.
And it's easy being a spectator, but it was like I got to get off the bench. Now, at the time, I was working as a VP corporate America who wouldn't let you speak freely about anything political. And they monitored your Facebook pages. They just made sure that you didn't do anything, because this was also the time when a lot of individuals would look for opportunity to go after, companies and put boycotts into place if they felt like companies leaned conservative. And so, companies trying to protect their brand, it was like, don't take positions, don't go political. And so I ended up, actually, I got to a point where I was like, I want to be involved. I want to make a difference. And I actually ended up retiring so I could get more involved.
Yeah, that's great. You made an interesting statement before we came in the studio about the government. Some people are saying, what can the government do for me?
Right.
And that's not the way it works, folks.
No, when you read our Constitution, the government is there to protect you.
Right.
It's one of the reasons why closed borders are common sense. The government needs to provide protection. So border security, strong military, roads and transportation, but it is not the government's place to provide for you.
Right.
And our forefathers and the settlers of America, they came here. They didn't want the government involved with their life. It was just like, hey, you know what? We just want to get a little piece of land we can farm, and we want to raise our family, and we want to
Right.
be free, and we want to worship, and we just don't want the government involved in our life. So the whole founding documents were all about the limited role of government.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the way it really should be. Describe District 37 for our audience. How large or how small is it, and what are its borders? I think it's a fairly large district, isn't it?
Yeah. District 37 actually starts at Lake Mead and Rainbow. And it's everything like north of Lake Mead, with the exception, there's some parts of Summerlin where it kind of goes down to Vegas Drive. But it's that swath of apartments that are on Rainbow from Lake Mead to Lake Cheyenne. But it's also the areas of like Desert Shores, Sun City, Summerlin, parts of Lone Mountain, Reverence, Cliff Shadows, that kind of whole swath.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a lot of people.
it is.
There's a lot of issues getting talked about, not only in the districts within the state, but throughout the country. Things like health care, cost of living, rising prices, public safety. You've walked the district, talked to these residents, knocked on doors. What are some of the standout issues concerning the residents in District 37?
Well, for sure, public safety is one, and I'll tell you, Dennis, I've lived in the district for 32 years. I started a business, grew my business there, raised my 4 boys there, and but I think everyone would tell you it's changed. Mm-hmm. And when I first moved there, it was considered probably one of the safest parts of town. People felt safe. And today people say, I just don't feel safe in my neighborhood. And what we've seen is, because the Democrats in our state legislature ushered in soft on crime policies, that has empowered criminals to commit crimes. And now there are more home burglaries, car burglaries, thefts, property crimes. But we're also seeing an increase of other types of crimes, and so people are not feeling safe. And a strong communities are safe communities. And then the other component of that is our schools. Our schools are the worst in the nation. And I appreciate that our governor has partnered with and has made education like a cornerstone. He's wanted to be that education governor. He's poured billions of dollars into our educational system. However, there's not, and I think graduation rates have gone up. We have seen some improvement in test scores, but overall, we remain last in the nation, and it's because our proficiency standards are far too low. And we have still within lower income communities, we still have a couple of hundred of failing schools, and parents need choice. And what we've seen happen, I got involved with going to school board meetings just so I could see for myself, and the schools started, they started tackling social issues and not putting, the emphasis in school should be on academics.
Absolutely,
You-
100%.
You're there to teach kids
Yeah.
to become contributing members of society. They have to be taught how to read, how to write, how to
Yeah.
do math, and the political opinions and social issues should be left out. The focus should be on academics. But really,
No
our
doubt.
our proficiency standards are too low. The grading scales have been gutted, and when you look at the role models of other states that have exceptional educational systems, it's because they have gone to school choice. And they allow parents to choose the school that is best for their child based upon their child's learning needs. And it's universal school choice. It's letting those dollars that are earmarked for a student to follow wherever that student goes. And that's a role model that works that we have to continue to look at. And that's also something that the Democrats have interfered with. They took away opportunity scholarships for low-income kids. They basically told the low-income kids, we don't care about you. We want to keep you locked in failing schools. And I want to fight that. And because here's the thing, Dennis, if children can't read by third grade, studies show us that they continue to fall behind. They lack self-confidence. They
Yeah.
lose their self-esteem. It's not a fun place to be in school when you can't keep up.
No,
So what
not at
happens?
all.
So what happens? They drop out of school.
drop
And
out.
you know what? When they drop out of school, then they turn to crime.
Right.
And so those two
Right.
things and go hand in hand.
Yeah.
We must do a better job of making sure that our kids have the best educational opportunities. They're our future, and they deserve it.
Does any of this tie into better teachers, better instructors?
I do believe that teachers, I think most teachers are really good people. I mean, look, if you go into teaching,
They
if you
are.
go into teaching, you have
Yeah.
a heart for service, right?
No doubt.
It's not, you're not going to become super wealthy.
No.
You do it because you want to make a difference in the life of a child.
Yeah.
And so I applaud teachers. Teachers have been impacted, though, by again, the teachers' unions who have tried to say, well, we don't want kids to be, you can't fail a child. Like this whole notion that there's no such thing as failure. Failure is real, and children need to learn it at a young age,
Yeah.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
And so when you see a child that's not keeping up, then it's on the schools to put the right program into place to make sure you bring that child up to where they need to be. But the notion that, well, we don't want to fail a child, or you can't give students an F, that's not the real world.
No.
And certainly, and I think, classroom size impacts it. I've talked to teachers where if they have children with disabilities in their classroom that are on learning plans, it's harder for teachers to give them the time and attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to look at what can we do to provide assistance in the classroom to help teachers when they have those special learning needs
Yeah.
students in their
Great point.
classrooms. So I think there are things that we can do, but we have to have high educational standards. There has to be accountability. And to your point, good teachers should be rewarded.
Yes.
Teachers whose classrooms are not progressing, whose students are not testing where they need to be, then those are the teachers who need to be coached out of teaching.
Yeah. That's a very, very good point. Jill Douglas is our special guest today on Pick Your Politics. What do you think, Jill, convinces voters to lean either to the left or to the right? And I'm curious to get your answer to this.
That's a good question because, I think it has to be an understanding of government. Unfortunately, and we see this happening throughout our country right now, there's this notion that socialism is somehow going to help you, or there's a notion that government is there to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk to people, however, when you talk about the role of government and you ask them, about their experiences with government, and you ask if they would want to grow government or if they want the government more involved in their actual lives, the responses are no. And then you're able to tie that back to when you grow government, what do we know about government? It's ineffective, it's inefficient, it's very costly. Where does government get their money from? Us, the taxpayers,
yeah.
right? So
Yep.
when you can help people really understand then that if we can shrink government, and because oftentimes, taxes go up when government spending is out of control. And our state controller, Andy Matthews, last legislative cycle tried to introduce a bill that would create an office of inspector general to audit books, to look for waste. And do you know our Democratic state legislatures would not allow that bill to have a hearing?
Yeah.
And you have to question,
Yeah.
why are they afraid of government transparency? Why are they afraid of having someone go in and inspect the books?
It's a great question.
And so we have to make the taxpayers angry that we have legislatures that they've elected to go up there and represent their interest, and they're not representing their interest.
Yeah. Very good point. What have you found, Jill, is the best way to separate yourself from your opponents?
Talk about the issues. Talk about, the good thing about running against an incumbent is they've got a voting record. They've made some promises, and those promises were broken.
Yeah. Because
while the incumbent's been in office, education hasn't improved. We've tried to get the overwhelming majority of voters in Nevada have said we want voter ID. She has voted against voter ID. The overwhelming majority of Nevadans have said we don't think it's fair that biological boys should play in girls' sports. But she has voted to allow biological boys to play in girls' sports. And so when you start looking at the voting record, she was there the session where they did what we call the Christmas tree bill, where they started giving all these nonprofits money. And many of those state legislatures were benefiting from money. Her organization, a nonprofit that she's involved in, did benefit from those dollars. And it's not the role of our government to decide. I appreciate the work of nonprofits, and I support many nonprofits.
Yeah, you do.
They do good work.
Yeah.
But it's not the role of our government to decide to take surplus money that our taxpayers have paid and decide which nonprofits they favor,
Right.
and give taxpayer dollars to nonprofits.
Yeah, I agree totally. How important, Jill, is it for any candidate to get minority voters, and how do you do that?
You just look. When I look at a voter, I just see a voter. I don't like putting labels on people, and I don't like judging people based upon the color of their skin, their sex, their sexual orientation, or anything else. I think people are issue voters, and so when you just connect and talk about their issues, and how we can solve issues, that's what resonates with the voters. The other day, last Saturday, I was out protesting the fact that Aaron Ford brought Gavin Newsom to Nevada. Gavin Newsom is a horrible governor. He's taken one of the most beautiful states in the nation,
true.
and he has ruined it.
Yeah.
And that is causing an exodus of people to fleeing that state.
Right.
The state's, the what he's done to small business, he's ruined cities, the taxes that they pay, and so we were talking about how this guy who's running for governor, and here his example is Gavin Newsom, who and he wants to make us California. That's really scary. I don't
is scary.
think most Nevadans. Nevadans have that pride of being kind of the wild, wild west, you know? And we need to protect that, because when we say home means Nevada, that means something.
Yeah.
We are not California. And,
No.
and there's only 29% of voters right now are Democrats, but they control 62% of our state legislature, which means that it's almost like it's a one-party government up in Carson City. And balanced government is government that works the best, because balanced government requires cooperation and conversation. And so we've got to elect more conservatives to Carson City, so that there is balance, so that there is compromise, and so it's actually people before politics.
Yeah, that's right. I was born and raised in California, and I saw some of that before moving to Southern Nevada. And you're right.
But I'll tell you, while I was there,
I guess it's just another endorsement for him, huh?
Well, and to your point, while I was out there holding up these signs, "Don't California Nevada," and "We don't want your California chaos," a black woman came by with her child. Now, this is like at Owens. Like this is a lower income community that every year legislatures make promises to that community. It doesn't improve. But this black woman came up to me and started talking, and she said that she votes Republican because she recognizes that all they've ever done is make promises. And
They don't keep 'em.
and they don't keep
They don't
them,
fulfill 'em.
and they're not doing what they need to do in her neighborhood, in her community. And she's taken it upon herself to send her son to a private school, because all of the schools in her community are non-performing schools. And so and we talked about the fact that if someone just saw her on the streets, knowing where she lives, they would automatically assume that she's voting as a Democrat.
Right.
But
right.
she's not.
But she's not. She saw the light.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, we've had numerous school, I think the one that we have currently in the school district is really trying to get rid of some issues. But we've had numerous superintendents for the Clark County School District, which have had problems for a long time.
Right. And we haven't really seen things change. And, while our governor wants to, help with job creation and entice diversification of businesses that come here, when businesses look at Nevada, they like our tax structure.
Oh, yeah.
But then they look and think, well, what type of education would my employees' children receive, and what's crime like? And then they decide to go to Texas or Florida or some of these other states. So it is critically important, if we want to bring new industry here, that we can be proud of our educational system, and that and I'll tell you, I think our sheriff's doing a great job. Kevin McMahill has done a great job, and he really does care. I mean, his community policing efforts, his efforts to support his law enforcement officers, and he is a tough on crime sheriff, and I appreciate that about him. His standing up to this woke judge that wanted to release this felon into the community that had 37 arrests, and after releasing him, the guy goes and commits crime again, So I really appreciated our sheriff for standing up and saying, no, we should not be releasing.
No, he is a good sheriff.
These criminals back into our communities.
Yeah, he is a good sheriff. Just as a side point, what do you think of the thing they're running on the news with Metro stopping the governor and his wife? And
Oh, God. I think that is-
supposedly a minor traffic infraction, and he said, "Yeah, I know who you are," and just pointing that out.
That was
Have a good day. And people are saying, "Well, that's favoritism." No, it's not.
I think it was a setup. I think
Do
it
you
was
really?
Well, think about this. That cop knew when he ran the tags that that was Joe Lombardo.
Yeah,
And he also, and what we haven't seen at all is the so-called infraction, right?
right.
So he thinks he kind of did a rolling stop. All right. The whole interaction, though, when he goes up to the car and he goes up to the side of the car, and he doesn't say, "I'm Officer So-and-so. Hey, you ran, you kind of did a rolling stop back there. Can I see your license and registration?" That's what they say when they stop you. So he didn't ask for that. So Lombardo says, "I'm Joe Lombardo."
Lombardo,
He
yeah.
didn't say, "I'm the governor." He
Right.
said, "I'm Joe Lombardo." And the guy goes, "Well, I know who you are." And then it's just like, "Okay, have a nice day."
Yeah.
So it wasn't that the governor didn't ask for any special,
No.
treatment.
No.
The officer just said, "Okay, have a nice day,"
Yeah.
and walked away.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing was just so odd. And look, all of us have had times where we've been stopped where we got out of a ticket. They just wanted us to know, hey, pay more attention to that issue. It
Right.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
There is no special, treatment. And the thing that's ironic about it is we do have video of Sisolak being in a car accident, seeming very disoriented, whose wife shows up at the scene and starts cleaning out the back of the car, and then they don't even cite him, and they don't even do a sobriety
Yeah.
field test, and they just let him go.
Yeah.
And then there's also the issue of Aaron Ford. It's on record that there was years ago an incident where the police were called, someone was arrested, and all of that has been sealed. So
Yeah.
these are serious things,
yeah.
and they have taken this one little incident, which was a know-nothing that could happen to any of us, and just totally. But I don't even think the officer handled it right, because he didn't even ask for identification.
Well, true.
It was just a very weird
Yeah.
stop, and so I think that
That's
it
true.
was almost like a setup. It was just
Yeah.
very weird.
Well, I've heard you say, "Well, I'm Jill Douglas." Okay. Have a nice day, and then
Yeah.
he's on his way. How could people help you in the campaign? Well, before I get to that, what, in your opinion, and I think I know what you're going to say, is the hardest part of campaigning for office?
Fundraising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought
First
you
of
were gonna
all,
say.
look,
Yeah.
it's not a fun thing to ask people to donate money, right? But
Especially today.
Yeah. And, and there's a lot of races. And so, people are being asked to support all these different
Yeah,
races,
right.
and all of them matter.
Yeah.
But it takes money to get your message out.
Right.
The number one thing to win an election is voter contact. Because I can tell you, Dennis, when I talk to a voter, when I knock on a door, if that door gets open, I'm getting that vote. And so it's like, how do I get my message out to the voters? And the way you get your message out is, through texting, through mailers, through knocking on those doors. And
Right.
it takes money to do it,
Yeah, it does.
And so
It does.
the number one thing, if we truly want to keep Nevada home, and we truly want more efficient, effective, transparent government, and we want to be able to talk about things, how do we lower taxes, no new taxes. One of the issues is property tax right now. I have a huge senior population. They're on fixed incomes. And, the government shouldn't be able to take your home because you don't, and the increased property taxes impact them. And
Yeah.
so, these are discussions that we need to have, but it takes money to get your message across.
No doubt.
And the lobbyists give a ton of money to incumbents. Special interest gives a lot of money to incumbents because they're trying to influence what they're going to do in the legislative sessions. And so, that's the biggest thing. I have a website. It's Jill Douglas, Jill Douglas, Douglass, 2 S's, JillDouglas.com. And you can go on there and make a donation. All the money that we're raising, it goes right back into the campaign for voter contact. And we'll be doing the mailers. And I know sometimes voters are like, I hate those mailers, but how else do you make contact?
Exactly.
And even if they're just walking that mailer to the garbage can, they're seeing some words while they're doing it,
No,
right?
You're right.
And you've got to be able to try to differentiate yourself. There's a difference between me and the incumbent who wants to grow government, who wants to increase your taxes, who is responsible for our communities being less safe, and hasn't done anything to improve education. So it's time for change.
It is time for change, and you're looking at the lady that's going to make a change. So remember, you've got to vote. That's extremely important. That's the whole point of this show.
And thank you for bringing that up, because I to piggyback on that, vote. Many times during midterm elections, people just don't turn out. They think it just doesn't matter. It's not a
Yeah,
presidential
that's right.
election.
That's right. No.
Our pain points start locally. Local government, state government, these are the ones that most impact your life, because they are the ones who are making the laws that impact education, that impact law enforcement, that impact safety, that impact taxation.
Right.
And you need to have a say in that. And the way you get a say is to show up and vote. And listen, every vote does count, and every vote does matter.
Yeah, that's a good point. People have asked me to ask you. You're elected for 2 years, a 2-year term in the assembly. What can you do within that time period in the assembly to help effectuate some of these problems that we're having?
Right. Well,
I'm living here. You're
Yes.
in Carson City. You're
Yes.
in the assembly. What are you going to do for me?
right. I'm going to submit bill draft requests that help improve something in your life, And one of the things I would like to do that has not been done in the Assembly District is I would like to put together a Citizens Advisory Council. I want people that I can
that's a
go.
great
I want
idea.
people that I can go to. Look,
It's a
it would be
great idea.
foolish for anyone in office to think they know everything about everything. No, I've got to be able to go if there's issues about health care, how we improve that, and then I've got to be able to go to doctors and nurses.
Yeah.
I need to be able to talk to teachers. I
Yeah.
need to be able to talk to the people that are most impacted by some of these areas. And I think having an advisory council that becomes a sounding board would be a very effective thing to do.
I think that's a great. I'll
Yes.
volunteer. I know it pays a lot, but yeah. Anyway, you have some events coming up.
Right.
I know you got one tonight.
I have one tonight.
You have others that are planned where people
We're
could
going to
come see you
be
and talk with
planning
you?
them. Yep.
Okay. All right. Just remember, she's your gal, Jill Douglas. Remember that name, and again, please go out to vote. Anyway, thank you so much for
thank
coming
you,
on,
Dennis.
Jill.
It's always a pleasure.
We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll be talking to you again. And that's going to wrap it up for time goes by so quick. This edition of Pick Your Politics. We're going to see you next show. We will have another candidate that's running for a different office, of course. And in the meantime, do your homework on whoever is running. Their background information is available for you. You study it, you make a choice, and that's what the turnout is going to be. So anyway, Thanks for joining us. We will see you on the next show very soon. And we appreciate you tuning in. So until then, so long, everybody.